And it's a real pleasure to welcome Congressman Matt Gaetz to the Mike Gallagher Show. I saw you in a restaurant last year like a dope. I went up to you. You looked up at me like, who is this nutcase who's going to come up here and bother me? And I just said, thanks for fighting and for advocating, because, wow, Congressman, you're in the thick of it, because we are going to need warriors right now. We're going to need. Are you ready for 2024?
Ready or not, here it is, and I'm grateful anytime folks stop by and say hello, and I'm out and about. You played the question about Hunter Biden and what kind of crack he smoked. Mike, are there different kinds? I didn't really, are there different lines and levels of, is there a bougie crack and then like a bargain basement crack?
Is it like,
I honestly don't know. Is there a brand name, like a Coke and a Pepsi of crack? But look, either way, Hunter Biden deserves contempt because his behavior toward the Congress has been contemptuous. He needs to show up and answer our questions. And frankly, to me, it doesn't matter if they're in public or behind closed doors. We can design a way to get to the truth, because the fundamental question is this: did you facilitate bribes to your father? And if the answer to that question is that he pleads to the Fifth, I think that there's an inference we can certainly draw from that. And if he says that he didn't do those things, then all of our follow-up questions are appropriate, in line, and he has waived any Fifth Amendment privilege to offer those responses. That's the work we should endeavor upon.
Congressman, have you met a single American who thinks that Joe Biden was totally oblivious to his son's business dealings?
Not even the Democrats in Congress believe that argument intellectually when they make it. And of course, Hunter Biden wasn't selling widgets. He wasn't offering some novel or unique professional service. It was just influence peddling. He was getting money from the Chinese, from corrupt Europeans, and it was all to try to create an access point with his father, who was the vice president of the United States, and even thereafter a very powerful person who was operating the Biden Center at Penn with a lot of this Chinese money. And one thing I've learned, Mike, when people pay bribes, they usually want something in return for those bribes. And in the case of the Chinese, they got the Biden administration to dissolve the Trump administration's special targeted unit that went after Chinese malign influence in our country. And certainly the Ukrainians who paid off the Bidens got the Bidens to parrot their exact desires when it came to U.S. policy towards Ukraine. So we all know what it was. Even the Democrats at these hearings know what it was. But the best defense for Hunter Biden, frankly, Mike, is that there are a lot of politicians in Washington who monetize their ne'er-do-well family members through these types of illicit relationships.
Congressman, you've been in the middle of this Lloyd Austin scandal. It is a scandal with a capital S. It's a mess. It's a debacle. It's one more crashing crap show of the Biden administration, where I don't even know if he knew his defense secretary was missing. Thank you for calling on the House Armed Services Committee chair, Mike Rogers, to haul this guy in, and the deputy defense secretary, and get some answers. It seems clear that, led by folks like you, Republicans aren't going to let this one go.
Well, it's one thing for the Department of Defense to lose a Chinese spy balloon. It's another thing for them to lose billions of dollars of assets in Afghanistan that might now be showing up in the hands of Hamas. But when the Secretary of Defense is literally lost by the Department of Defense, I think we could figure out something's going wrong there. Joe Biden didn't know. Lloyd Austin went in for this procedure in secret. And then his chief deputy, who was supposed to be taking the reins, that normally would be okay. People go in for medical procedures. She was off in Puerto Rico and didn't even think to abridge her vacation to come back and lead the Defense Department, as the Secretary of Defense was incapacitated. This is such a bumbling, stumbling, foolish, and might I say embarrassing moment for the United States. Even Democrat Congressman DeLuzio has called for Lloyd Austin to resign. So when you have Democrats calling for the resignation of the Secretary of Defense because he was lost by the Department of Defense, I think Republicans need to step forward, have the hearings, and show the American people what the hell is going on.
All right, final question, and I'm so grateful for your time. I've been looking forward to this conversation, and after hearing some of the things you have to say, our audience knows why. But let me ask you, in parting, about some of the bad blood and the angst that people feel over your challenging Kevin McCarthy. You got Mike Johnson now. A lot of people who are in the middle of all this and inside the Beltway have questions about his leadership. You were very, very successful in saying that it can't be business as usual. What do you say to Matt Gaetz critics who say, hey, this guy knocked over the apple cart. Kevin McCarthy shouldn't have been ousted the way he was. Give us your sort of overview about the way all that played out and the way you think the House leadership is going right now under Mike Johnson.
Yeah, let me confess, I'm not a peacetime consigliere. If your viewers and listeners believe that we ought to just nip and tuck around the edges in Washington and largely maintain this system, then I'm probably not the guy for them. I believe this town needs change, and it will only change with force and with leverage. Kevin McCarthy didn't understand that, so he was forced and leveraged out. Mike Johnson has 2.5 months under his belt, and already we've seen release of January 6 tapes that Kevin McCarthy told us wouldn't happen. We saw a subpoena to Hunter Biden, which Kevin McCarthy would never allow to occur. We have a contempt proceeding. We've had an impeachment vote. All those things, I think, demonstrate progress over McCarthy. But when we get to the budget, there is more work to do, and Mike Johnson has not yet delivered on the commitment he made to assume this position. Mike Johnson has to drive down the federal spending in meaningful ways. What we've learned just in the last few weeks, Mike, is that Kevin McCarthy made $50 billion in secret side deals that no one voted on with Biden and Schumer. Mike Johnson reported to us that he's clawed back $20 billion of that $50 billion. It's progress, but it's not enough. And I'll be meeting with the speaker in just minutes to go over our unified plan forward so that we can liberate ourselves from really the Schumer, McConnell, Biden uniparty way of governing this town.
Congressman Matt Gaetz, we appreciate your time very much. Come back and visit with us again, and thank you for not calling security on me the last time when I came up to you at the restaurant. Were
you able to pull out the blow dart that hit you in the neck? Were you able to remove that and get on with your evening? Oh my gosh!
It barely left a mark. It barely left a mark. It healed nicely. I'm all right. Hey, thanks, Congressman. Keep fighting the good fight. We appreciate you joining us.